difficult to say good afternoon or good hello to all of you because it's noon, so it's always very difficult to find out the proper way to greet you. But whatever we say, it is our pleasure to have you here for the presentation of Ambassador Fatih Ceylan. He is Deputy Undersecretary in Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Turkey. You might be surprised that the Ministry of Defense and the Belgrade Fund for Political Excellency organizing this presentation, but don't be surprised. Actually, Ambassador is dealing with the security issues, with the security policy in wider sense, and you know that our ministry, and of course me, I'm covering also the defense policy as such. And I had a privilege last time when I was in Ankara to discuss with the ambassador exactly some of those issues that I would love you also to have the opportunity to be aware of and to share with the ambassador during this presentation. So for the beginning, we will have presentations by ambassador, and afterward, of course, questions and answers. Last but not least, this is one of the activities that the Ministry of Defense is pursuing with the civic sector here in Serbia, and it becomes very obvious that we have a strategic partnership with some of the NGOs in Serbia, particularly with the Belgrade Fund for Political Excellency. And I am grateful that all of you are working with us and that you will continue working with us. And I'm especially happy to have here with us Mrs. Licht, having in mind the busy schedule that that lady has, not only in Serbia but all around Europe. I would like to ask her also to give us a very short few words for the beginning. Thank you.
Ms. Mitchell, thank you very much. It is really, once again, a great pleasure to be able to organize an event with the Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Serbia. As you said, and thank you for those very important words, we happen to be strategic partners on different issues, in different major programs, including, and I can't simply miss the opportunity, including the work on the National Action Plan for the implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1325. I'm mentioning this because exactly this room was the venue of many important steps that we made together until we managed to have a National Action Plan, and finally even our media picked up that very important issue. Just a few days ago I was in NATO, and I was more than impressed that some of the people in the NATO said, including, for example, the Russian representative, that this is one of their strategic priorities. So we obviously managed to find a topic. Of course, the other very important project, and this was happening also in the same venue. This is an information for His Excellency. Our speaker today was the first Belgrade Security Forum, and hereby I would like to invite you for the second one, which will be in September this year. I'm using this opportunity to do it publicly, and I very much hope that you will be part of it. We had a number of very important, outstanding Turkish representatives. We believe that Turkey is one of those very exciting countries that is achieving so much in a short time, that we can learn a lot about the challenges and the opportunities you are facing, and this is why I'm so glad that you are with us today.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Tanya. I had the opportunity of meeting you in Ankara, and we had a very productive meeting, following which I came to Belgrade. And yesterday I had a series of meetings. I had political consultations with different authorities, and it was very useful, productive, and result-oriented. So for this, I would like to express my gratitude to our Serbian friends here in Belgrade for arranging this visit. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be here with you today. I also thank Ms. Sonja Licht for a kind introduction and the Belgrade Fund for Political Excellence for giving me the opportunity to address such a distinguished audience. Actually, the focus of today's presentation is on Turkish foreign policy. Yesterday at the Diplomatic Academy, I concentrated more on the Turkish security policy, but you will see a flavor of the security aspect of Turkish foreign policy. So together in the Q&A session we can concentrate more on the security side of it if you wish. Before my presentation, I should also like to emphasize how important our relationship is with Serbia. Turkey and Serbia are linked by many bonds, including historical ones. Serbia is an important partner for us in the Balkans. Both Turkey and Serbia have strategic interests in maintaining close cooperation in all areas. Today, the level of our relations, I believe, indicates a strong atmosphere to further our cooperation in all fields. In my presentation, I will intend to offer an analysis of the various aspects of the Turkish foreign policy. After making a brief introduction, I will touch upon the relative strengths of our foreign policy. Following which, I will also give an insight on operational principles of this policy, and then I will conclude my remarks. Since its foundation, Turkey's foreign policy has been guided by the principle of peace at home, peace in the world, a motto that we owe to our founder, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. Over the years, our foreign policy developed and gained many layers and dimensions, always on the basis of this principle, in line with the changes in the domestic and international environment. Today, the dynamism in Turkish foreign policy is also mainly based on domestic advances and changes in the international setting. Otherwise, there is no change in the values and principles that has so far led us to forge a strong alliance with the Euro-Atlantic community and build peaceful relations with our neighbors. As to the international landscape, for instance, at the end of the Cold War, Turkey found itself at the epicenter of a new geopolitical landscape, hosting many risks and opportunities that would define the future of our globe. Like the rest of the world, Turkey's own future also rested on the course and direction of the events that were to take place in this strategic milieu. In this challenging environment, where a new order is yet to be established, it was obvious that we were to benefit greatly if the opportunities prevail over the risks, or vice versa. Hence the need to be more active than ever with a view to shaping our own destiny and that of the wider region surrounding us. At this juncture, we have also realized that in the post-Cold War era, the notion of security can no longer be confined to merely military terms, and that historical, social, cultural, political and economic factors increasingly enter into play and affect the security environment. And in fact, it's in this particular context that Turkey felt itself well poised to play a pivotal role in its region and beyond towards the attainment of peace and stability. Ladies and gentlemen, one has to admit that Turkey today is quite different from that of 20 or even 10 years ago. We are now in a position to pursue our foreign policy goals much more actively and assertively. This is first and foremost because we are now stronger in both political and economic terms. We are the 16th largest economy in the world and projected to be among the top 10 in the next 10 years. The advances we made in our democratization process has also made Turkey a more stable country and increased our soft power in the region and beyond. Indeed, with its fast-growing economy, social dynamism, improved democratic standards emanating from a well-established set of values and a clear vocation, unique historical ties with a large number of countries in all four directions, and a rich cultural diversity, Turkey's soft power is more relevant and effective than ever before in a wide geography. Besides, Turkey is no longer merely the flank country of the Western Alliance or simply located on the edges of Europe and Asia. we now found ourselves at the epicenter of a widening geography by all possible terms. Indeed, politically, economically, socially, and culturally, today's main risks and opportunities mainly revolve in this wide neighborhood of us, and Turkey is well poised to make a vital and constructive impact on the course of developments therein. Our history, geography, and culture provide us with a distinct ability, what can be called as strategic depth, to relate and link up with the countries of many diverse regions around us. Today, the challenge for Turkish foreign policy is to use this strategic depth in the most effective way for the attainment of peace and stability both at the regional and global levels. One of the important principles that guide Turkish foreign policy is our firm belief that security cannot be enhanced at the expense of freedoms. In fact, this is very much the fundamental philosophy of governance in Turkey. We believe that our security depends primarily on guaranteeing the basic rights and freedoms of our people. Therefore, in all relations, we encourage democratic governance, either by example or through our policies and programs. We do not impose our own will on anyone, but constantly make calls for democratic reforms. For we know that relations among democracies are more reliable and predictable as they enjoy the support of their people. Our approach to the recent developments in the Middle East fully reflects this understanding, and it has from the very outset been a principled one, emphasizing promotion of democracy, respect for human rights, rule of law, and overall the accountability of the regimes. We see it as an opportunity for the democratization of the entire region and consider it to be an irreversible process based on the will of the people. As such, our support to the democratic aspirations of the people is unwavering. It's in this context that we have been supporting the democratic demands of the people in Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, Syria, and other countries in the region. We will continue to help them build their own democratic system that is compatible with universal values. We are also aware that Turkey is in a special position to make a positive difference in the region. Apart from our historical ties and affinities, Turkey provides a source of inspiration to the countries in the region, given its fast-growing economy, social dynamism, improved democratic standards, and rich cultural diversity. In other words, Turkey's soft power is more relevant and effective than ever in this wide geography. For instance, a recent survey conducted by TESEF, an NGO in Turkey, in 8 Arab countries shows that Turkey has the highest favorability rate in the region, with 78% of the people expressing a positive view of Turkey and asking the advancement of bilateral relations. Now let's concentrate on this motto of zero problems with neighbors. Zero problems with neighbors is another guiding principle of our foreign policy. Of course, we are not naive to expect the resolution of all problems in a short period, but it reflects our orientation. Results will come through time, and when there is a reciprocal willingness on the side of our counterparts to resolve differences through dialogue and cooperation. So far, we have made limited but considerable progress in establishing such an atmosphere of cooperation and dialogue around ourselves. Our trade volume with neighboring countries, for instance, has quadrupled in the last 10 years. The same is true for the number of high-level visits in the region to and from Turkey. We very much maintain our commitment to resolve our issues with all neighboring countries through political dialogue, economic interdependence, and cultural understanding. Looking back, one can easily see that we have rather come a long way in achieving the goals that we have set for ourselves. Indeed, by making use of the existing opportunities and taking the right steps at the right time, we have started putting in place the necessary cornerstones for creating a zone of cooperation and dialogue around us. As a result, today we have much improved relations with many of our neighbors, which represent a truly diverse group, including countries like Greece, Russia, Georgia, and Iran. We have become increasingly active, particularly in the Middle East and the Balkans, through creative bilateral cooperation schemes in the form of high-level strategic cooperation councils, visa exemptions, free trade agreements, etc., as well as regional integration projects. Yes, we still have a lot of security problems and political differences with the countries in our region. Syria, for instance, is a particular case in point. We have invested so immensely in this country in the last decade. We have done everything possible to help them become part of the solutions rather than problems. But the problems we experience with this country are not of our own making, and it's Syria which isolated itself from the entire region and the international community by its repression against its own people. In this connection, let me underline that we have recently hosted the second conference of the Group of Friends of the Syrian People on the 1st of April 2012 in Istanbul, in which the participants exchanged views on opening up the way for a comprehensive political transition process in accordance with the legitimate demands and aspirations of the Syrian people, and reflected on the efforts of Mr. Kofi Annan, the UN Arab League's Joint Special Envoy for Syria. Expanding and deepening our outreach, as such, made us even more sensitive to the conflicts in those regions and propelled us to be more active in helping their resolution. We have done so through various facilitation mediation initiatives and regional global cooperation schemes we have launched over the recent years. In this context, the two different trilateral dialogue processes we have started among Turkey, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Serbia and Croatia, the trilateral cooperation initiative among Turkey, Afghanistan and Pakistan, our efforts to reconcile differences among domestic political parties in Iraq and Lebanon, and our facilitation of dialogue between Iran and the E3+3 are particularly noteworthy. Turkey is conducting the most comprehensive aid program of its history in Afghanistan and will remain engaged until we reach the point where development and stability is irreversible. We also exert every effort to promote regional cooperation. Just recently, for instance, we managed to launch a new regional cooperation mechanism under the name of Istanbul Process. We also have a trilateral cooperation mechanism among Afghanistan, Pakistan and Turkey, through which not only leaders meet regularly, but a range of concrete projects, including military and intelligence cooperation, are put into effect. The same is valid for the Balkans too. The trilateral cooperation mechanism we have launched, together with Serbia and Bosnia-Herzegovina, for instance, made a noticeable difference in facilitating reconciliation between these countries. Today, everyone in the Balkans, you can see Turkey actively working to promote cooperation, mediate between conflicting parties, and increase prosperity. In this regard, we are certainly benefiting from our common history with the Balkan countries, and we are thus setting an example in the way that history can serve to bring parties together and create a common vision for the future, rather than making us hostage to our past. Another geography where our history and values drove us into is Africa. Turkey is acting with a sense of responsibility and ability in the entire continent. Africa, which has been ignored and exploited for so long, needs a helping hand. It has a huge positive potential, but requires assistance and cooperation to realize it. Turkey is thus committed to engage with all the African countries and create a win-win framework for cooperation. To this end, we have already increased the number of our embassies in the continent from 12 to 34 and have made more than quadrupled our trade volume within the last few years. Last but not least, we also enjoy strategic partnership with the United States and our allies in the European Union, in addition to our growing relations with the emerging powers of our time like Brazil, South Africa, Indonesia, China and Russia. Ladies and gentlemen, a now standard observation about the Turkish foreign policy is that it has become too independent and ambitious, and often this is presented as a proof of Turkey's drift from its Western allies. We have indeed become more assertive and active in our foreign policy, but our time-tested partnership and cooperation with our allies in the West remains solid. Changing international environment that compels us to play a greater role in our region and beyond. Turkey pursues the relationships in tandem with its strategic allies in the West. After all, we share the same ultimate objectives with our Western partners and complement each other through our comparative advantages. In fact, our active foreign policy is appreciated by our partners across the board. For instance, the recent EU progress reports on Turkey depicts active Turkish foreign policy as an asset for the Union. In this regard, NATO still remains the principal forum of transatlantic consultation and cooperation for Turkey. What has changed today is that Turkey now brings a much greater added value to the alliance through its growing network of relationships and the unique understanding of the complex dynamics of a wide region. One should also note that the most significant strides in Turkey's quest for full membership to the European Union have also been made within the last decade, thanks to the bold and sweeping reforms undertaken by our government. Today, despite many artificial obstacles created by some EU members, Turkey continues to stay the course and take the necessary steps to fulfill the membership criteria. As such, the EU membership remains a strategic goal for Turkey. Let me also touch upon another aspect of Turkish foreign policy, which is about its commitment to multilateral diplomacy. For long, Turkey has pursued a relatively low profile in multinational platforms. But now we are aware of the crucial role these forums can and should play. We also certainly feel better equipped to make a contribution. It was also basically due to our active foreign policy that Turkey was elected as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council 2 years ago with an overwhelming support from the United Nations member states. During this 2-year term, we tried to bring our constructive added value to all the issues on the agenda, and the feedback we received from a wider membership was very encouraging. This is why we are now running for a seat in the Council again, this time for 2015 and 16. And given our active role in many of the Council's agenda items, we believe that Turkey will again make an important contribution to the work of the Council. In this context, it's worth noting that Turkey is now one of the 3 strategic partners of the African Union, enjoys observer partner status with a diverse group of organizations such as OAS, ASEAN and the Arab League, plays a leading role in the OIC, and chairs the Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures in Asia. Besides, in almost all important global initiatives, you can see Turkey playing a prominent role. The Alliance of Civilizations, Global Counter-Terrorism Forum and Peace through Mediation are all such initiatives, where Turkey is a co-sponsor with countries like Spain, the United States and Finland, respectively. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope I was able to explain why Turkey is an active player in the international arena, what we aim to achieve, and how we intend to do it. The key words are responsibility, ability, vision, cooperation, and long-term commitment. Our objective is to help consolidate peace, security, and stability in our region and beyond through regional ownership and international cooperation. In sum, Turkish foreign policy represents a dynamic continuum where our ultimate objectives and the values that drive them remain the same, but the means available to us in achieving these goals are more multifaceted and numerous than ever. Turkey is committed to help forging a zone of security and stability in its region and beyond by making use of its enhanced capabilities. We have already come a long way in a relatively short period, but there is still a long distance ahead of us. We will cover this distance in cooperation with our friends and partners. And Turkey's commitment to make a positive difference in this process, in cooperation with its friends and partners, is an asset for everyone concerned. Thank you for listening.
sure that some of those issues you will have to develop further, because
Yes.
I'm certain that there will be questions in some of those directions. So the floor is open. Please raise your hand if you are interested to comment, to have a question or comment, or to discuss some of those issues with the Ambassador Jalen. I know that to pose the first one is most difficult. Please, can you introduce yourself? Thank you very much.
Nikola Budite, Ministry of Defense. Your Excellency, thank you for very insightful lecture, and I would like to hear your opinion on 2 points. Firstly, in the past year or so, we saw an increase of tension in East Mediterranean and in regions of what some people call Hellenic-Israeli alliance. And would you care to elaborate on further Turkish foreign policy measures, especially having in mind the newly announced Turkish military naval strategy and possibility of Cyprus reunification talks fallout after the 1st of July? And additionally, region-wise, I would like to ask you, will you elaborate more on Turkey's position regarding constitutional reforms in Bosnia and creation of third federal entity for Croatia? Thank you.
Shall we go one by one? Or?
Let us see, do we have one question additionally, or I think that you can answer this one, those two, and then we will collect here.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. You talked about the recent developments in the Eastern Mediterranean, and in your own words, you made a reference to Greek-Israel alliance. Now, first of all, Greece is our ally at NATO. We might have differences over certain issues, but over the recent years there have been very visible and concrete improvement in bilateral ties with Greece. So one should have a very clear look at that. And please don't forget that we signed a strategic level cooperation council mechanism with Greece, and there was the first meeting of it, like a joint cabinet meeting. And in its difficult times, particularly in financial terms, we are trying to do our best to contribute to Greece in finding solutions to its economic problems on the basis of this strategic level bilateral consultation and cooperation mechanism. Israel has been Turkey's long-time partner in the region. There was a very serious incident in which 9 of our citizens were killed by the regular Israeli army. So after that, the bilateral relations soured, of course. What we expect from Israel is a clear, formal apology for what it did and compensation to the families of the victims, and consider very seriously lifting the embargo against the Gaza Strip. I mean, we are not against countries coming together for further peace and security and stability in the region and cooperate and combine their efforts. We would welcome any development, any cooperation that would enhance stability and security in the Eastern Mediterranean. As in my presentation, I have mentioned that Turkey is seeking to find ways and means of further improving the security and stability atmosphere in its own region and beyond. So I wouldn't see it as an alliance. Maybe it's a cooperation. Any cooperation geared towards improving the picture in the Eastern Mediterranean would be welcomed and supported by Turkey. There was another question on Bosnia-Herzegovina.
Yeah.
For Bosnia-Herzegovina, of course, let me make it clear at the very outset that we wouldn't expect anybody to impose their own will on the peoples in the Balkans. They should try to find their own solutions, home-driven, homemade solutions to their problems. That doesn't mean that the international community will not contribute to efforts, that generates the grounds for further improvement in relations among the entities, be it in Bosnia-Herzegovina or elsewhere. And that is exactly the role of the international community, to try to bring together parties and to try to prepare conducive grounds for further improvement within the society itself and in bilateral, trilateral, and quadrilateral, anyway, multilateral frameworks. I think that should be the role of the international community, and the regional countries should also help towards this process. And this is what Turkey is trying to do. This is what the countries in the Balkans are trying to do. I mean, we had witnessed enough instability in the Balkans. We do not like to see such events in the future, and for this we are trying to do our best, of course in consultation and cooperation with the regional countries, to get rid of any source of instability in this particular region. I mean, after all, Turkey is a Balkans country. We are developing cooperative schemes with Serbia, with Bosnia, with Croatia, that I mentioned in my presentation. So the ultimate aim is to have a more prosperous, peaceful and stable Balkans, by which Turkey can contribute. That is our aim. What was the second question?
That was the constitutional changes with the creation of the third element.
Creation of?
Third element as the part of the federation for the Croats.
Yeah.
Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Well, I don't want to go into that detail actually, because this is not my file. My responsibilities are particularly Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Moldova, Caucasia, Central Asia, Far East, NATO and OSCE. So I'm not particularly responsible for the Balkans affairs, but I can have I can approach it from a rather security point of view. But for the details, I mean, I'm not going to get into that. But what we intend to do, our intention is very clear, that we would like to see a much more stable and peaceful Bosnia and Herzegovina, and for this, I think everybody should deploy serious efforts for that. That's all I can say on Bosnia and Herzegovina. Do you have another question, the second one? That was the third question. Can you repeat your second question, please?
No,
that was the third question?
No, that was the second question.
The second,
that was
okay,
the second
fine.
question.
Fine.
Oh, we do have several. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you very much for this overview of Turkish foreign policy. My name is Dan Kovacs, I'm a postgraduate student at the Faculty of Political Science. I would like to ask you, Turkey was among the first countries which recognized Kosovo independence. Do you think that that was a real contribution to peace, stability and security in the Western Balkans? And why relations towards the territorial integrity of Serbia and Azerbaijan is so deep? Thank you.
Yes, we have. Sorry.
Shall I respond, or shall we take another?
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue.
Thanks.
Yes. One additional for this row.
Thank you very much. My name is Darko Antimovic. I'm from the Faculty of Security Studies. First of all, I would like to thank you for your kind presentation, Your Excellency. And to tell the truth, I'm a little bit frightened with your speech here. I will tell you why. Because I see that Turkish foreign policy is going to expand to many countries. But to me, it looks like you try to make interference in internal relations with many countries, from Lebanon to Balkan. And my question is simply to you, and I would like to get a sincere answer from your side. Is it Turkish recognition of Kosovo, which is related to the previous questions, brave act of the Turkish government, which in the future will actually produce and create the Turkish recognition of independent Kurdish state? Today we have to do many things that Turkey is active in different parts of the world, in the Balkans, etc., which is great. But Turkish role in the Balkans, particularly Bosnia, in the group of implementation, look to me one-sided. Turkish role in Kosovo look one-sided. Turkish role between Hamas and Hezbollah is also one-sided. I hope to see Turkey as a key player, but with the new Islamist government, I think maybe there will be advantage on your side or disadvantage. But the key question is, how are you going to deal with all these things? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, okay, thank you very much indeed. The recognition of Kosovo. Turkey is not the sole country, of course, which recognized the independence of Kosovo. Now, when Kosovo, so you ask whether it's a contribution to peace. Look, I mean, we would not stand behind any design that would destabilize this region or that would generate instability in this area. Yesterday, in our context with our Serbian friends, they have appreciated the role Turkey is playing, particularly in welcoming and supporting the dialogue between Belgrade and Pristina, and the balanced attitude that we have been demonstrating during that process. I mean, this question should be asked to 86 or 89 countries. 89 countries. We are not all alone, and the point is not to create a wedge, to put a wedge between Serbia and the rest of the countries in the Balkans. On the contrary, any design that improves the dialogue, common understanding among the countries in the region will certainly be supported by Turkey. That's a very clear-cut policy that we have adopted. With regard to Syria, questions on Syria, let me try to outline what we did regarding Syria. When Syria was all alone and isolated by the international community, Turkey was trying to build bridges between Syria and the rest of the international community. That's on the records. There was no visit from any country, but there was a presidential visit by Turkey in the year 2000. And later on, we tried to do our best to bring them back to the international fold of the international community. That is also on the records. As a third point, I should like to make clear that starting from January 2011, when this Arab Spring was felt very strongly in Middle East and North Africa, we tried to convince Bashar Assad that he needs to do something about it, because the spring or awakening, or however you name it, was knocking on the door of Syria as well. We detected that. And our political leadership made several contacts directly with Bashar Assad, encouraging him to introduce reforms and implement them as soon as possible. I'm talking about January 2011. And finally, I mean, our foreign minister went there, stayed almost 7-8 hours, spent 7-8 hours with Assad, trying to help Assad to introduce and implement these reforms as soon as possible. What the regime is doing, actually, is that they say, okay, we will do it. This is a promise, and we will do it within a certain time period, like in 10 days, 15 days. We will carry out the general elections in 6 months, and we will introduce multi-party system in our country, so there will be an all-inclusive democratic system. We will write a new constitution. These are the promises, pledges made not only to our political leadership, but also to those who visited Damascus during that time period. But none of them, none of these promises, none of these pledges had been fulfilled. What can you do about it? I mean, the first demonstrations, they were peaceful. But even the certain state apparatuses within the regime did not even like the idea of having peaceful demonstrations, whereby the people talk about their legitimate constitutional aspects, their legitimate aspirations, their legitimate expectations from the regime. But the response was arms. And every single day now, I mean, there are on the average 80 to 100 people dying because of the attacks by heavy weaponry, by tanks, by helicopters. In the last 2 or 3 days, on the average again, almost 1,500 people are fleeing to Turkey. And those fleeing to Turkey are elderly people, women, children. Now I think it must have exceeded 20,000 people in Turkey. We are trying to take very good care of them, which was recognized and registered by the international community, by the representatives of the international community who visit the area in Turkey. So that's what we are trying to do. Now, I mean, as I told in my introduction, the democratic and peaceful aspirations and expectations of the peoples in the Middle East and North Africa must be met by their political leaderships. If you start killing your own people, repressing your own people, Turkey will not side with such regimes, whoever and wherever they are. So that's a clear-cut policy and bottom line for Turkey. About the court case for Israeli attack, I think the families of the victims, some families of the victims, are trying to bring this case to an international court. I don't know where the process is, but we have offered some formula to Israel. There was a series of meetings between Turkish and Israeli authorities. We were on the verge of striking a deal twice, which means breakthrough, but that was leaked to the press by Israel for domestic political purposes, and this project was killed. We don't have any problem with the Jewish people. One should not forget that in the 15th century, when they were being slaughtered in Europe, in Spain, 1492, Inquisition period, the first place, the country they came was Turkey. We have our own Jewish community in Turkey. They are very well off, and they don't experience any problems. So our issue is not with the Israeli people or with the Jewish communities. The problem is with the Israeli regime. Iran, the nuclear problem, let me say very clearly at the beginning that we would not like to see an Iran with a nuclear bomb. That's a very clear-cut position from the very beginning. What we believe is, also that's an answer about the nuclear power plant that we will be building with Russia in Turkey. What we believe is that every country has a right under the NPT and under the IAEA, that's the International Atomic Energy Agency, to benefit peacefully from nuclear energy. There are certain security standards, safeguards, adopted by the IAEA, and they must be strictly observed, abided by. That's what we are saying. So we are also telling Iranians that what they should do is to convince the international community and those international organizations that what they are doing is for peaceful use of nuclear energy. So there is a total lack of trust between Iran and this E3+3 or P5+1. So that lack of trust must be eliminated. That's what we are telling our Iranian friends. But in principle, we do support every country to make peaceful use of nuclear energy under international safeguards and standards. And the address is clear. That's the International Atomic Energy Agency. And of course, if you are a party to NPT, that's the Non-Proliferation Treaty, you have to observe these commitments. That's what we are saying. About the interference, which is related to Kosovo, I think I did try my best to give you a response to that. About the Kurds living in northern Iraq and throughout the region, let me tell you something. I mean, no other country in this region is helping the Kurds living in Iraq or elsewhere in financial terms, in other terms, other than Turkey. We are the only country in the region helping the Kurds, which are our relatives, because we also have citizens of Kurdish origin in Turkey. We are investing there, investing in their infrastructure, superstructure. You go and ask them what Turkey is doing in the region. In their times of difficulties, we provided electricity. to this region in Iraq. And I mean, if you have an opportunity of talking to those people, they will tell you what Turkey is doing there. You made a reference to one-sided interference. No, that's not our intention. I hope I made it clear that what we are trying to do is to follow an active, effective multilateral diplomacy in cooperation and consultation with our partners, friends, and allies. That's what we are trying to do. But if this is perceived as a one-sided approach, I think that should be redressed. With regard to the Islamist government, that's another terminology that he used. I think you are not following the statements provided by the Prime Minister, for instance, when he visited Egypt, underlining in very clear-cut terms the importance of secularism in state governments. I don't have the words that he used, but he made a special reference to the importance of secularism in running a state in Egypt after the events in Egypt. So please bear this in mind. And also, I should like to bring to your attention another important aspect is that what we are trying to do is we are in touch with all the groups in the region, be they Maronites, Christians, whatever they are. Our door is open. They are coming to Turkey. They are having consultations with us on many different issues, which also include Syria, Lebanon. You can go and ask them. The Patriarch of Maronites came to Turkey very recently, and he was extremely pleased. There was a call by the Turkish political leadership to the Christians in Syria, saying that if you face any difficulty, don't forget that Turkey is your second home. That's been said. So these, statements must be kept under consideration while making comments on what we are trying to do in the region. So thank you very much indeed. Any other question? I'm ready.
Friends of Syria.
Syria?
Friends of Syria.
Friends of Syria. There was a statement. Now, what is happening is that there have been quite a large number of representatives who came to Istanbul for that meeting. What Turkey has been saying is that the opposition must have a unified stance. The opposition must have an all-inclusive representation. The opposition must put a roadmap for the international community if they want to be, proceed in a democratic manner for a democratic system. And I think this is what they did by adopting a national covenant in Istanbul. So I mean, it is the wish of the opposition groups. We hope, not only Turkey, but many other countries hope that they will have a more unified ranks among their groups. Of course, now there are deserters from the army. They established this Free Syrian Army. They are also in touch with the Syrian National Council and the groups within Syrian National Council. So that's all I can say regarding the friends of the Syria. What I should like to bring to your attention is that, I mean, for the first time, the opposition groups were at least agreed on this national covenant, which is very important for the future of Syria. What we would like to see is not a destabilized Syria, but a stable Syria, a peaceful Syria, and the sooner we have it, the better, of course, and a democratic constitutional regime. That's all we would like to see. Thank you.
My name is Urednik, faculty of philosophy. I would like to ask you a few questions. First of all, how would Turkey deal with problems with so-called Armenian genocide within the First World War and French decision to make it a certain political issue in France and it means in the EU in a way as well? And what about human rights violation in Turkey? I mean, issues with Alawites or with Kurds or with journalists. Recently I have heard that 100 journalists are in prison in Turkey. So in a way, yes, Turkey is a very important regional power and one has to respect it. And on the other hand, there are certain points of issue that Turkey should answer. I'm interested in your opinion. What would be the strategy of Turkey regarding these issues? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please. Gospodin u prvom redu.
Colonel Jamal Farji, military attaché of Iran, you said Iran should create competence. I must say we are a member of International Atomic Agency and we do everything according to the organization. And you know better because you are our neighbor. You are a mediator between us and other countries. Everything Iran repeatedly has said our activity is peaceful and we do everything under control of International Atomic Agency. And we said, our country has said all inspectors of that organization can come to Iran and inspect everything. It's enough for confidence, for trust. You said Iran should create confidence on trust. It is not enough for confidence or trust. We are member of we have right, and you said we have right to create peaceful plans, nuclear plans, and we do everything under, we are member of International Nuclear Agency. It's enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Institute of International Politics and Economics. Thank you very much for your presentation, and I would like to ask you two questions. And the first one would be regarding Russia, as you have mentioned that it is your area of expertise particularly. So would you please expand a little bit on Turkey's relationship with Russia, especially in terms of the economy and energy, arms trade, and joint initiatives for this agreement, keeping in mind, for example, the fact is Syria. And the second question would be about your mediation efforts on many points. Traditionally, in international diplomacy, that role was reserved for neutral countries. So, in last decade or two, it's not so more. But still, would you expand a little bit? Do you see your membership in NATO as an asset or the liability when you are in position to mediate in the Middle East or in Asia, for example?
Thank you. Hvala puno. Prvi red, gospodin Manuel.
My name is Oliver Ivanovic. I'm a State Secretary in the Ministry for Kosovo and Government. I'm not going to ask you anything about Kosovo because you already received a couple of questions. My question goes to the issue of Cyprus. And I didn't hear that you mentioned that like area with your responsibility, but anyhow, I'm interested to know how do you see the current situation in Cyprus? And bearing in mind that many people in the EU says or consider the Cyprus issue like a mistake. That means that membership of the EU, Cyprus membership of the EU, they consider a mistake in working the problem in the EU. That's how they describe the process of integrating the Cyprus in the EU. What's your position on that? And do you think that EU membership is making closer to sides and making possible any kind of agreement, or you also agree with those thinking that that was exactly a mistake?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now the first question on Turkish Armenia. Well, you used the word, and also the recent decision by the Constitutional Court in France. You used the word genocide. Genocide is a legal term. So you're passing a legal judgment if you say that it's a genocide. And I think none of us here in this room or elsewhere have the authority to use legal terms as such. That's what I should mention. Had there been tragedies? Yes. That's true. Tragedies for both sides, for many sides, during the First World War in 1915. But to use a legal term, I think one should be cautious about that, which has become very evident by the adoption of this Constitutional Court decision in France. It's very important decision that one must keep in mind, because, again, I mean, there was a reference to this genocide, quote unquote, by the political leadership in France, but that's not the opinion of a constitutional court. With regard to Armenia, now, we are not trying to build animosities based on the past. I think we should look forward, all of us, not only in the Caucasian region, but also in the Balkans region, in the Middle East region. I think we need a new paradigm for having history. So we should kind of deprive ourselves of the tragedies and traumas of the past and look forward for a better future and cooperate. And that's also applicable to Turkish-Armenia relations. And for this reason, we initiated a process. We signed 2 protocols in 2009, that's October 2009. They have not yet been ratified because the political ground is not mature enough for Turkey to ratify these documents. What we are seeking in the region is a regional normalization. We are looking at regions. Also, in bilateral context, of course, we are trying to do our best to normalize our relations with all our neighbors. For instance, we signed almost with every country, including Syria, either high-level cooperation council mechanisms or strategic-level cooperation, strategic council mechanisms, through which there have been a series of joint cabinet meetings with almost every country. Armenia is a missing link. What we are trying to do is also to try to normalize our relations with Armenia. But for this to happen, I think we need a regional normalization. And by regional normalization, what I mean is that there should also be normalization in relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. That will reinforce regional normalization, and it will certainly ease the way towards normalization between Turkey and Armenia. That is what we are trying to do. This year is the 20th anniversary of the establishment of the Minsk Group. I'm sure that you know what the Minsk Group is trying to do. In the last few years, I would say in the last decade, it's the Minsk Group co-chairs trying to do something about it. But finally they came up and said that the status quo in the region is unacceptable. That is exactly what we have been advocating for years, that this status quo is unacceptable. So let's change it. How? Okay, we initiated the process with the protocols, by signing the protocols, and we are proposing to have a multilateral conference during the course of this year in observance of the 20th anniversary of the foundation of the Minsk Group. And we have been developing for the last 2 years regional integration projects which will be beneficial for the regional countries, including Armenia itself. So we came up with a solid proposal, the second solid proposal by Turkey for regional normalization. As for human rights violations, you talked about Aramites, Kurds, 100 journalists imprisoned in Turkey. Now, Turkey has taken tremendous steps in reconciliation efforts. I'm sorry to use this reconciliation word. The Kurds have been throughout Turkey for many years, for centuries. They have also been in the parliament. They are our citizens. They are not aliens. What we are against is the use of terror methods by any group in Turkey or elsewhere, be it Kurds, Turks, whatever. So we are against terrorism in all its forms, in all its manifestations, for whatever reason it's done. This is unacceptable for Turkey. So it's not particularly confined to the Kurds. If there is a Kurdish terrorist, we will fight against it. If there is a Turkish terrorist, we will also fight against it. That's the bottom line. So when you say the Kurds, you have to distinguish between terrorists and our citizens of Kurdish origin. They are in the parliament, so they should continue to discuss, negotiate in a democratic manner under the premises of the Turkish Grand National Assembly, in a political framework. That is their duty as the citizens of Turkey. For regard to Aramites, are you talking about Suryanis in Turkey? Alawites. Alawites. They also have lots of NGOs and lots of influence in Turkish political life. I think if you focus solely on certain groups with different complaints, I'm not challenging why they are complaining about the various political cases, questions in Turkey. They have the right to do so. Turkey is a democratic, pluralistic country. But don't forget that our citizens of Alawite creed are active in Turkish politics. They have representatives everywhere, and they are very loyal people to Turkey, and they are very modern thinking people. So why should we have bias against Alawites? 100 journalists in prison. This is a legal case. It doesn't help the image of Turkey. I'm aware of that as a diplomat. Some have been released, but the court proceedings are continuing. And with regard to some of these journalists, I think their affinities with certain groups in Turkey, which have some terroristic plots, have been proven, and the court is still continuing, and I think they will take their final decision. But there have been some evidence which relate these people to some terrorist groups. With regard to the intervention by our Iranian friend, military attaché, defense attaché, well, I should say it very clearly that Turkey has supported the Iranian efforts for years, trying to convince our allies and partners that what Iran is trying to do is for peaceful purposes. And we have told the Iranian leadership on many occasions that we are against Iran developing a nuclear bomb. And we have been assured time and again. The Prime Minister was there very recently. He went there after Seoul Nuclear Security Summit meeting. He met all the Iranian political leadership. So what we are saying is that that may be the reality. But the point is the perception is different. So you should narrow down this gap of perception. What the international community has, what is IAEA. I know that there have been 2 visits by IAEA to Tehran. And please do remember that in 2010, Turkey, in cooperation with Brazil was able, and Iran, they came together, they adopted the declaration, Tehran Declaration, which was not supported by the international community. So that was a missed opportunity, and we tell this. That was a big step towards further confidence and further trust in the nuclear power plant of Iran. So the idea here is that it may not be the perception of Iran, it may not be the perception of Turkey, but this is the perception of those countries, like P5+1, E3+3, however you call it, it's to your preference. So that is the case. So for this reason, I think what we have been saying is that there must be enhanced and intensified consultations and dialogue between Iran and P5+1 as soon as possible. That's what we have been saying. We are on the side of dialogue and consultations. That's what we are trying to do. I'm talking about the perceptions that one must address. Relations with Russia. When President Medvedev came to Turkey in May of 2010, Turkey and Russia signed high-level cooperation council mechanism, which means that every single year there will be one meeting at the level of heads of state and government between Turkey and Russia. Underneath it, there's a joint strategic planning group at the ministerial level. And beneath that, there are various communications channels, communications and consultation channels with Russia. I think in Turkish-Russian history, this has become a very intensive period in terms of bilateral relations. We have set the target for ourselves by 2015, $100 billion in trade volume. I think this is within reach. We have already reached 1/3 of it. So we still have 3 years to go, so we can reach it. We have, of course, energy cooperation with Russia. This is a very important topic in economic terms. So things seem to be going in the right direction in terms of our bilateral relations with Russia. With regard to Syria, of course, I mean, on every issue, you cannot see eye to eye. That is also true among the allies and partners and friends. We do not agree 100% on every issue in the context of our relations with Russia. Syria is one of them. Russia has a different perception in its mind, like China. We are in touch with Russians. That doesn't mean that we are not talking to Russians. I was there on the 19th of March. We had the opportunity of exchanging views on that, which do not totally overlap. But anyway, I mean, there's an open channel of communication between Turkey and Russia in a very wide array of fields. Mediation efforts, NATO membership. Well, NATO membership is not an impediment for Turkey in its efforts for mediation. So for mediation, of course, you have to have the consent of preferably every side concerned. And membership in NATO does not present an impediment, a barrier for any country to try to, carry out mediation efforts. So we do not see any, conflict between our membership in NATO and such mediation efforts. Whether we see our membership in NATO as an asset or a liability, it's certainly an asset. And I made it clear in my presentation. In our security policies, NATO has been the backbone of Turkey's security policy. I mentioned about this yesterday at the Diplomatic Academy, so there should be no doubt about it. We acceded to NATO in 1952, and we have been a very active member of NATO for more than 5 decades. Cyprus, this is another important issue which has direct implications for security and stability in the region. What we need in Cyprus is a negotiated settlement. So any unilateral step taken by either side, be it Greek Cypriots or Turkish Cypriots, would be detrimental to our interests. And that is what Greek Cypriots did by this unilateral oil drills. I mean, we made our position very clear. Before a final comprehensive settlement is reached on the island, I think it would be very harmful to conduct such unilateral activities. In 2004, there was a referendum. There was an Annan plan developed by Kofi Annan, who's now the special envoy for the United Nations and Arab League for Syria. That was put to referendum in both sides of the island, and it was rejected by the majority of Greek Cypriots. I think 74%. It's about 70 anyway. And a landslide yes coming from the Turkish Cypriots. So that was a golden opportunity to reach a deal between the two communities on the island for a brighter future. And we were told then that, you know, the Greek Cypriots rejected, so the isolation of the Turkish Cypriots will be terminated by the European Union, by giving some financial aid and by introducing some, you know, regulations and what have you. I don't want to get into the details, but that has never happened after the accession of Greek Cypriots to the European Union. When you talk to the members, to the prominent members of the European Union, in private, behind the closed doors, they do admit that they committed a mistake by taking only the Greek Cypriot side of the island into the European Union. But of course, publicly they can say it. But publicly we can say that it was a mistake. And we hope that a negotiated settlement will be found very soon, hope so, by the 1st of July. There must anyway be a negotiated solution, no matter where it will take us. It must be a negotiated solution. So that is our clear-cut policy on Cyprus issue, and we do hope that this solution will be found by the 1st of July. Why by the 1st of July? By the 1st of July, or on the 1st of July, the Greek Cypriots will take over the presidency of the European Union. So, which means that if there is no solution found by then, Turkey-EU relations will be confined to Turkey-Commission relations only, because we do not recognize the southern part of the island as the government, as representing the whole of Ireland. That's been the established policy of Turkey for many years. Let us see. We are still, not Turkey, of course, we are supporting. The Turkish Cypriots are trying to develop proposals. They are sharing it with their Greek Cypriot counterparts. Mr. Ban Ki-moon is in the picture. Mr. Donor is trying to do his best. And let's hope that it will create a synergistic effect and generate a solution, a negotiated solution, by the 1st of July. If a negotiated solution is not found by the 1st of July, then after 1st of July, efforts should continue for a negotiated solution. So we are on the side of negotiations and a compromise to be reached by the Turkish Cypriots and Greek Cypriots. So that's all I can say on the Cyprus issue. Thank you. Any other question?
Koji nisu pitali, izvini.
My name is Alexander Kovacevic. I happen to
in Cyprus in good will to actually facilitate EU assistance to infrastructure in the north of Cyprus. So I think we have some idea about the problem. To some extent, I believe that certain infrastructure development and certain security arrangements, etc., are preconditions for the negotiated agreement. So, especially in the context of development of offshore gas and oil resources around eventually prospects of a different position of Syria in future and so on. So it seems that the question is quite complex in technical terms, not only in the diplomatic terms. But my question is on the other side. We of course engaged with the EU Danube strategy, and my question is to which extent Turkey is interested, or let's say looking forward to Danube and the potential of navigation and trade along Danube, between Danubian countries and Turkey. Thank you.
Samo kratko. And if we don't have any question further, I would like to have one. Because there was something in your presentation, Ambassador, that I find very interesting, and we never actually have a possibility to discuss about that issue. And all in all, I think that would be a nice way to finish this presentation. This is a soft power. The role and enrollment of the Turkish entertainment industry, which is so evident, especially in the region that we are belonging to. And I'm very much interested because this is definitely something which constitutes the proactive policy, foreign policy that you are pursuing.
Thank you, Tanya. Danube project. I served twice in Brussels. One at NATO headquarters and one in our mission to the European Union. For years we have been following projects related to Danube, of course. And there had been some projects in the past within NATO, because NATO has a scientific committee as well, used to have. And we contributed to that project in the context of NATO. But Danube is certainly very important for the region. And anything, if it's used as a project to develop good relations, stable relations among the countries, among the little countries, we would certainly welcome and support it. Anything that serves the interests of the countries in the region will be supported by Turkey. That's what I told before, and I continue that. I mean, I repeat that. Any project designed to improve relations among the countries, designed to contribute towards further economic and commercial activity, will certainly be supported by Turkey, and we will be more than pleased to see Turkish contribution to it. That is again in close collaboration with the countries concerned in the region, because after all the Danube runs into the Black Sea, and we are a little state in the Black Sea. So anything that disturbs Danube, the pollution and what have you, I think is not in the interest of Turkey. There was an incident in Hungary, I think. So we helped Hungarians then to get rid of this, trouble. I think there was a special mud going into the Danube, because it comes to the Black Sea, and when it comes to the Black Sea, it affects the Black Sea as a whole. So I mean, Turkey has also an interest in this Danube region. It is also in our mind setup whenever we talk about regional projects, bilateral projects, and what have you. There was another question on Syria. I think you focus too much on Syria, and you're right on doing that. Syria is a serious problem, but it's not the only problem for Turkey. It's now become a security problem for Turkey because of the people fleeing from Syria. Now, throughout this period, what we have been saying and trying to do is to contribute towards creating the necessary grounds, the conducive grounds for a peaceful transition in Syria. That is what we have been trying to do. We made quite a number of pleas to Bashar Assad to adopt reforms and implement them in a time frame without losing time. But now there is an internal friction within Syria, which is of direct interest to Turkey, which directly affects the security of Turkey, because we are the only country sharing 910,000 kilometer long border with Syria. So anything that happens in Syria regarding instability or such clashes will certainly have implications for Turkey. We had in the past experienced such things. I remember the first Gulf War in 1990. We had received 500,000 people from northern Iraq. Don't forget that. Today, those circles who accuse Turkey of being repressive, of using methods that they think are not democratic, should always remember that Turkey became a host to 500,000 northern Iraqi Kurds in 1990. That is also on the records. Let's not forget about this. And that's a security problem. And it created a security problem for Turkey. It provided safe haven for some terrorists to infiltrate into Turkey. But nevertheless, it was our moral obligation to receive those people in Turkey and to take care of them. And that's exactly what we are doing now. It can be 20,000, it can be 50,000. It's been said that our door is open to our Syrian friends because they have their relatives in Turkey. It's a humanitarian problem. So if they continue to come, we will receive them. And that's been appreciated by the relevant organizations, international organizations, the representatives of which came to Turkey, visited the area, and wrote their reports. So Syria is also a humanitarian issue for Turkey. So we have moral obligation. We are facing a humanitarian situation. So we will continue to do our best. We would like to see a Syria in stable conditions, in secure conditions, and in a peaceful manner. I hope this period will end soon, and we will have a Syria with a constitutional democracy. That's all I can say. Thank you. Soft power. This is very important for any country. You know that the Turks have been very good soldiers for centuries. So we decided to be less soldiers and more civilian in our civilian actors in our international dealings. When the Cold War ended in the early 90s, 89, 90, we were still good soldiers. We are still good soldiers. But we believe over the years that, of course, that's an economic development as well. You have to have an economic basis to reinforce your soft power, the projection of your soft power. So come 2000, we realized that there is a very much wide spectrum whereby you can contribute towards peace and stability other than sending peace troops or peacekeepers. So we decided to kind of try to make an inventory of what we can do for peacekeeping efforts. And then, of course, there was this discussion, people coming from Mars, from Venus, Kaplan, was it Kaplan? Anyway. Keegan, yeah, exactly. The spouse of Victoria Nuland, that part I know. So we thought about it, and we decided to conceptualize how we can make various instruments at the disposal of the state to project the soft power of Turkey. By soft power, I mean like you have to make use of your Red Crescent facilities, ambulances, fire brigades, civil defense, disaster management, disaster response, technical and developmental aid. So there is a Turkish International Cooperation Agency, TICA. It has been very effective. Humanitarian aid, technical aid, developmental aid, training programs for many countries, for in Asia, in Africa, for many countries, in the Balkans as well. So there was a kind of a transformation in our conceptual thinking, particularly in the aftermath of the year 2000, when people started talking about, yes, we have hard power, but that must be also reinforced and complemented by soft power assets and capabilities. And that was also the discussion in the European institutions, be it in NATO or in the European Union. So we developed our own model, trying to bring together the various assets and capabilities belonging to different state institutions and having a coordination center on top of them. That is how we developed this model and started using our soft power in a very effective manner. If there is anyone interested in how this model is developed, of course we would be more than willing to share our experience. I mean, we are very open to it. We can provide it to you, and of course you can adjust it to your own country. But that's been an experience of almost 15 years now. Thank you.
Ambassador, on behalf of the organizers, I would like to thank you for this impressive session this morning. When you look at the room and see that we had a full room Friday at 11 o'clock in the morning, that I think in itself speaks about the interest for an ongoing conversation and Good Friday as well. But I also want to mention that this happens to be also a very special day. This is the 6th of April is the 71st anniversary of the bombing of Belgrade in 1941, and 6th of April is also the 20th anniversary of the beginning of the war in Sarajevo. So this is one of those days that I think we all are reminded again how important soft power is and how important conversation is. In our region, we do really want to believe this time that this is it. We had enough of wars, of conflict, of suffering. We need a major effort for regional cooperation, a major effort to make this region a success story as far as its peaceful future is considered. And I'm sure that the audience here as well believes that Turkey can play a major role. This is why we need this conversation to go on. We welcome guests from Turkey.
Thank you.
And I'm also assured that our ambassador, Dusan Spasovic, who played such an important role in the Ministry of Defense before he left us and went to Ankara, will also play an important role in developing and facilitating this conversation in the future. So I want to thank you again for this morning and thank the audience for an active participation.
Thank you.